What is up, guys? Tonight we're going to be telling the story of the house, finally. But before we get into that, I just want to let you know that this is a long-ass video. And it's long because I want to share with you every step of the way that I encountered going through this whole process, all the lessons that I learned, and how life-changing this whole experience was for me. And I hope that that reaches some of you guys and maybe helps you out if you're in a slump or you're in a position that maybe I was in prior to going into this. It's definitely not about the showboating, and if you don't want to watch the whole thing, at least watch my closing thoughts at the end, because that's where I really bring it all together, and I hope that it helps you all out. So let's get into it.
What is up, guys? Today we're going to be telling the story of the house. Now, I know this is something that I put off for a really long time, considering that I closed 2 years ago, but the time is better late than never to kind of share this with everybody. For those of you just tuning in, and those of you who don't really know me, I'm a complete grassroots guy. I didn't come from money. I really just kind of worked my ass off to get where I am today, but it was the story of this house and pulling this whole deal together that completely changed everything and completely changed my life and paved the way for everything that I have going on right now. This is why I think it's very important for me to share this with you all, and I want to tell the story. So before all of this, and those of you just tuning in, I highly suggest go and watch my Where It All Began video, because that kind of shows where I came from. I bought a house when I was 21 because I was thrown out of my parents' house, and it was 1,060 square foot. It was on a construction quarry road, so I had dump trucks and stuff going by all hours of the night doing night work and stuff. But it was what I could afford. It had a 2-car garage, and it's where I started doing all my builds from. And then from there, as I advanced in my career and made more money, I was able to get my hands involved with more car projects, and I rented a space eventually when I outgrew that, and then ultimately we found this place and came here. So I know a lot of you have seen the garage, which is over here. It's on the property, Behind you is the house that my wife and I live in. And then going across this way is the original house on the property, which we rent to my in-laws. So the story of all this and why this all exists, this wasn't supposed to exist. This was not supposed to happen, and it was the unusual circumstances and everything that led up to everything over the years. It's just funny how, like, if you want to talk about like fate and destiny, like if things didn't go exactly the way they went, we wouldn't be here today. So the backstory for this property is this. That's the original house. It was built in 1980. The gentleman that was here before me, it was his parents' house. The father passed away a long time ago. He moved back in with the mother, but his business was building custom post and beam barns. So in 2001, he pulled a permit to build a barn valued at $5,000. And he built this house, which you see right here. So this is 2,606 square feet. It's all custom post and beam construction. He put bedrooms, bathrooms, septics, a well, the whole nine under the radar, and then got away with it. So a few years later, 2007 came along. He did it again, but this time the barn was valued at $10,000. And he built this behemoth, which you see before me, which is a 5,800 square feet post and beam construction, custom barn. It has heated floors, it has post and beam construction, all finished in the upstairs. And he did the same thing, bedrooms, bathrooms, septic, all underneath the radar. Eventually, the town caught wind of what was going on. They figured that out. They started hitting them really hard with the taxes for this place. I don't even want to tell you what the taxes were. Actually, I'll tell you what the taxes were. When we looked at the tax history for this place, it was $24,000 at one point a year, because they were taxing this guy for over 10,000 square feet of house, which is, it's no longer the case. They're lower, but they're still not cheap by any means. So 2008 recession came along, and he had fell on some hard times with his business. He made some, I don't know what exactly went down, but he made some poor life choices from what I heard, and he had to walk away from this. When we found this place, there was $780,000 out in home equity loans on it, and I'm going to take a gander that most of those loans went into building this building. So the story of how we found it. My wife and I years ago made a decision that we weren't going to buy another home in Connecticut. We wanted to eventually migrate down south. But in 2015, it was around July, we started driving back from Lime Rock one day, and we just happened to take an alternate route home. And while we were driving back, I saw this house that had a pretty big garage on it. And I said to my wife, I said, wow, would you look at that? I said, you know what? We're kind of stuck in Connecticut. I have my career, you have your career, all of our friends and family are here. There's really no immediate rush for us to move out. At the time I was renting that garage, which is where I started filming Garage Quinn Motors out of. It was 1,800 square foot. I shared it with another guy, and it was like a really tight, awkward space. And I was paying almost $600 a month for that, for my half, because we had to cover the rent plus utilities for it. So I said to her, if we could find another house in Connecticut where I can move and keep the car operation like close to home, like this guy has, I would kind of entertain buying another house. The very next day, my wife found this property, and at first I scoffed at it, because she said to me, she's like, it says it has 9 garages, and I said, what was the price on that again? And she gave it to me, and I was like, that sounds like way too good to be true. So like, we didn't do anything about it. About a week went by, we had a little bit of downtime, and I said to her, hey, why don't we go out and take a ride out to the house, and we'll just do a drive-by? Because when I bought the first house, that's what we did. Instead of getting a real estate agent, we would always just go do a drive-by, see what the neighborhood was like, see what the house looked like, and before we actually could make the appointment to go and look at it. So so I asked her if she wanted to go take a ride, and she's like, I don't know, like I don't feel to. And I was like, yeah, you know what, it's probably a piece of shit anyways, like let's not even waste the time. But then she's like, nah, we can go if you want. So we came out here. I, for some reason, knew it was a foreclosure. I think there was something indicating in the listing that it was a foreclosure, but the listing was very vague, and it didn't do a really good job kind of portraying like how the property was laid out. I didn't think that these were 2 separate buildings. I thought they were all one building. So we came up the driveway and I parked over there next to the stone wall. It's pitch black. I get out and I'm looking around at this place and I'm like, what the fuck happened here? Because it's absurd. And you try to explain this property to people and it's like really hard to explain the layout. So then I came over and I was looking at the barn and I was just like, this place is freaking unbelievable. Unbelievable. And especially at the price that I was listing at. I'm gonna tell you guys towards the end of this what I bought this property for, but I'm gonna build you up to it so you can kind of understand, and you'll see how everything comes full circle. So we immediately got a listing agent involved, and we came in here and we went through the property inside and stuff. But that's when the rabbit hole really opened up and I started to see everything that this place needed. So going down to the town hall, I spoke with the building inspector and the health department, and I kind of got some of the background because there was notes in the real estate listing that there was potential septic and well issues. Not knowing anything about any of that stuff at the time, like it was pretty intimidating to say the least. So basically the gist of it was this: because this guy just did this stuff under the radar, the town wanted everything ripped up and redone appropriately. And going down there as like being a Joe Nobody, I was like one of tons of people that were always coming down interested in this property, but everybody was backing away when they find out like all the remediation that it needed. They told me you either have to subdivide the property or knock a building down if you want it. And anytime that there's clauses like that from the town, that's a really big deal when you're trying to get a mortgage for something. We certainly didn't have cash for it. We weren't even in a position to buy another house. So the timing was, we found this place around July, and like I said, when I went down to the town hall, I found out that it needed all this stuff. So the first 3 weeks of like just making phone calls and meeting with people was like so overwhelming. I was like, there is no way we're gonna be able to pull this property off. I'm like, this is just way over our heads. Like, I don't think this is gonna happen. And I kind of like gave up for a week. It was like 3 weeks felt like a year because it was every day. But I thought about it some more and I said to myself, you know what? This is a once in a lifetime deal. Like, there is no way we're ever gonna get a property like this, like within our budget anytime soon. So I just made the conscious decision that I'm gonna make this happen and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get there. And for the first time in my life, and this is why this is so significant, for the first time in my life, it took my attention away from the car stuff. I literally got up out of bed every day, went to work to just fund my car passion. And that's why I always had a bunch of cars. I didn't care about clothes. I didn't care about going out to eat all the time. We didn't really take any lavish vacations or anything like that. Like, look it, I'm wearing jeans that I fucking bought from 2013 because I don't care about that stuff. Like, you have to make sacrifices somewhere. So I just made sacrifices with everything else in my life to support the car thing. But when this property came along, because of what it entailed to pull this deal off, that's what changed everything for me. And that's like when it was the first thing that interrupted that like OCD, like one track mind obsession that I had. So as we started moving along in the process, we didn't have any money. So I started doing the scramble. I sold my Spec Miata race car. I made my retirement from racing. I raced Spec Miata for 7 years. So I sold the race car. I sold my enclosed aluminum trailer. I sold my Z06 Corvette that I had for a short stint. If some of you guys have been following me now for a while, you remember that car made one appearance on the channel and that was it. I took on side work wherever I could, which I always did side work to like kind of, again, fund the car passion thing. But just scrambling for money. So during this time, we watched the price drop on this house twice. And by the second price drop, we said, okay, we have to get an offer in for this like ASAP. So we did. We found out we were the first people to ever place an offer on it, like officially. Because again, going back to once people found out like what the property needed to have done, they would back away. And I should also make note that every day from July to December until we put the property in, I was meeting with people from the town, coming up with remediation plans, proposals. Like, because of the septics and because of the well stuff, I looked into bringing city water into the property. It actually ends 300 feet up the road. I got quoted $150 to $300 a foot to bring it over to the property. So it was gonna be like almost $90,000. So that wasn't an option. We were looking at the route of doing an FHA renovation loan because you could not buy this place with a conventional loan. So we finally got the offer in, and like I said, it was like in December, and the bank countered. They put us within where we were able to kind of afford. So actually, I'm just going to start throwing numbers out now. The property, when we found it, was listed at $299, which was amazingly cheap, especially for Connecticut for something like this. We watched the price drop once to $274, and then again to $257, and that's when we put the offer in. As we were making the offer, the listing agent for the bank was talking to the agent that we were working with, and they said nobody has ever put an offer in on this property. So we went in low at $210, and the reason is this. I had financed my 1,000 square foot shack that I lived in before this property to a 10-year note about a year and a half prior to finding this. So as I had to show that as debt, and that was working against me. Plus I had some car payments because I was stupid and I racked up a whole bunch of car loans. In the process of selling stuff, I was able to eliminate one of them, the big one, which was on the BMW. So we put our offer in at $210, knowing that we were the first ones to ever make an offer. The bank countered at $236,900, which was great because out the door we were looking at about $300,000 for a loan for what we were able to afford. Me showing my other house as debt still, because again, bank owned, you can't do a Hubble clause. You have to like show whatever debt you have. Hubble clause meaning you can buy the new house that you want once your house sells. You can't do that. So we got their counter offer. We countered. We were like, okay, great, we're in the ballpark, but we're going to make one counter, try to meet in the middle. I think we said 225 or 224 or something, and we went 60 days from December into the end of January, nobody being able to get a hold of the bank to get a yes or a no, not even the listing agent that they hired. This property had changed bank hands about 7 times from the 7 years that it was on the market. I don't know if I mentioned this before, I'm going to say it one more time. It was foreclosed in 2009 and it sat vacant for 7 years until we came along. And we were the first people, like I said, to put an offer on it. So when the bank came back, they finally came back and they said, we're turning your offer down because we have a cash offer on the table and we don't want to deal with financing. And this is very true because when you're financing a mortgage on a house, the house has to meet certain stipulations before the bank is willing to say, okay, we will give you a loan for that. This place doesn't meet anything because of all the complications and stuff with it, which is why I was going the route of a renovation loan. So with the renovation loan, we were at a disadvantage versus the guy with the cash offer. The guy who was hired by that bank to sell this house was actually pretty cool because he indicated, he's like, but I will say that their offer is lower. So going back to all the research I did about dealing with banks while we were waiting around, biting our nails for the bank to come back to us with a final like yes or no, I did read that a bank will go with a finance deal if it's substantially more than the cash offer. So I was figuring it was a jerk-off offer and the guy was probably just threw it out there saying like, okay, if I can get it at this, then great. If not, then like whatever. So we came up and we went to 242, which is like, again, I knew I needed about $60,000 for the well and the septic for the renovation loan. But obviously it worked out in the end. And within, I think I want to say 3 or 4 days after that, we were kind of like pretty down. We thought we were done. We started looking at other properties, trying to find something similar to this in Connecticut, which is just, we found stuff with multiple buildings, but not like this. And it was on a Sunday of all days. We were driving back after looking at 3 properties that day, defeated, like just bummed out. And we got the phone call saying that they accepted the offer. So it was like awesome, awesome victory, awesome, awesome milestone. And it was just like a great celebration that day. But from there, it only got even worse. So doing this FHA renovation thing, I thought going into it, actually, why don't we start walking here and I'll show you guys around as I'm finishing telling you this. I thought that I can just use that renovation money for the 2 septic systems that I had to dig up and rebuild per code and the deep well that I had to dig. And we're gonna take you over here because I'm gonna show you some of the septic work and stuff that we had to do. But it turns out you can't do that. You have to hire an FHA inspector that works for the government program there, who comes through the property and picks out everything that's not FHA compliant and puts it into your loan, material and the labor costs, plus an additional 15% to account for any possible overages. So we were set to finance around $300,000, which I said was at the tip of what we were able to swing, or what we qualified for. This guy came through, he tacked on $40,000 worth of stuff, which put us outside of what we were able to borrow. Now, at the time, I knew the whole story for this property, and I had to be really careful about what bits of information I gave to certain parties, because there were so many moving components, so many working parts, and any one of them could have put a stop to this if they found out too much. So it was a little bit shady in some regards, but like at the same time, like it was just kind of doing what I needed to do to like make this happen. I didn't cheat anybody. I didn't do anything illegal. Well, we'll call that a fine line. And I'll explain why in a minute, but it wasn't malicious in any way, shape, or form. It was like literally I was just pouring my heart into doing whatever I had to do to pull this deal off. So I'm just gonna, while we're here, I'm gonna give you a little vantage point here. So if you look over this way where you see the rocks that form over there, this is all new septic fields for our house. When we bought this place, directly below us, which you're not gonna be able to see, there was an old hand dug well. And he had the house tied into it. Now you need to have a proper proximity from your well to your septic per health code. So that is why we had to abandon the shallow well here and pound a new deep well in the back. But this is part of the septic work here. So that was one system. We dug it up and rebuilt it. I love this porch, and I love the stonework on the chimney. This guy poured his heart into building this stuff. He was definitely a skilled craftsman. You'll see all the cedar siding and stuff here is very dark. Because these buildings sat empty for so long, the weather, the sun just beats and decays on them. Last year I resealed everything by hand just to like get it coated up. I redid the deck. I'm still in the process of doing stuff, so you'll see like the railings aren't recoated and stuff yet, but I'm working on it little by little, piece by piece. Like there was a lot to undertake going into all this. So in the process, when the FHA guy came through and he added all that money onto it, I had the lockbox code at the time. So what I did was I took his list of everything that he put in there, because I thought going into doing the renovation thing that I can fix stuff and I can just use it for the septics and the well, but that's not the case. They don't want you doing any work. They want it all done via licensed contractors. So I started coming here fixing stuff. I had the lockbox because I was breaking in. I was fixing stuff. I put about $8,000 into the property before I even knew I was going to get it. And I was taking pictures of the stuff and sending it to him. Now, there's also another thing that really helped me out in my case. Because I do IT work, this guy had his FHA database program crash on his laptop. He had brought his laptop to Geek Squad and had them reformat it because of a virus, and he thought that he lost all of his clients and all of his database information. So I did a remote session with him one day on the phone and went through. Luckily, there was like a little setup guide and text document. This used an old Microsoft Access database for those of you who are a little bit IT savvy. And I was able to recreate the folder structures and directories and put the data files where they needed to be and where the program was expecting the call from, and I got it working for him again. So he was thrilled when I did that for him, and he was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, you know, when I come out there to inspect for work done to release funds, I'm not gonna charge you, because every time that he has to come out to do exactly that, there's a charge. And I said to him, I said, listen, like, you can charge me all you want all day. I'm like, just please work with me on the numbers, because right now with what you added onto the loan, you put us outside of what we can borrow. So given that, he was like, I think he saw that I was desperate. He like said to me, he's like, I can't believe you are going there, breaking in and fixing stuff, and like, I mean, we're talking like demolition and like redoing ductwork and HVAC and stuff. He's like, I can't believe you're doing all this and you don't even know if you're gonna own the property. So I think he really saw that like I truly was like 150% in and desperate, and like therefore he worked with me. Now, actually I'll show you this right here. So this is where our new deep well is pounded in the back, so we have plenty of proximity from there to the septic. And then going back here behind the property, this is all just nature preserve, so it's nice, it's quiet, it goes on for a couple miles without anything other than wilderness and wildlife. So like going back to the numbers on everything, I'm lucky, and this is another reason why it's luck, but also like just determination, like getting through hurdles. So I had to hire a general contractor, because again, I'm not allowed to do any of the work according to the loan program. I luckily knew a guy who did a lot of carpentry work for my parents growing up. And he agreed to act as my general contractor. Now this is what nobody knows, and I'm telling this now because I own the house and nobody's gonna come take it from me now, but I fudged every single bid number for his quote versus the FHA guy's quote. And I had everything worked out with him on the side. So a lot of times when money was being released for work being done, it was coming back into my pocket because I was already paying him out of pocket for stuff, or I was just doing it myself. The only stuff that I didn't do was obviously like pound the deep well, do the septic systems, because I'm not a septic guy. The second system went in right here. It's huge. It runs all the way out into the driveway here, which is why you see this belly. There was a little bit of a conflict with the town and the guy who was here and did all this stuff, and the town brought in an engineer to design a septic system for this. Now, when I was looking at this property, I didn't want to spend money because if I didn't have to, so instead of me hiring an engineer to come in and design new septic systems, I just said to the town, well, you guys already had an engineer do this and you're okay with this system as designed, so I'll just implement this as designed. It probably cost me an extra $15,000 in the whole scheme of things, but at the end of the day, like, who the hell cares? Because at this point, like, it doesn't really matter like what I spend on the property now, because I'm not going to be below. I'm always going to be ahead of the game because of what I got it for. So I have an enormous freaking septic that's way overbuilt, way overspec'd. Going back to the kind of fudging stuff, you're not supposed to have family members doing any of the work for the contract stuff. My cousin happens to install septic systems. So not that I saved like any amazing amount of money with him. He gave me a fair price. But the real key is that any contractors that are involved have to be willing to take payment after work being performed. And that was where the real benefit of having my cousin do the work was, because of that, he was okay. He knew the circumstances and he was okay with taking payment after the fact. So this is like another one of those things that, like, it's a little bit sketchy and a little bit shady, but like, again, it's nothing malicious. Everything's done to code. You know what I mean? Everything's legit now, but it was like different last names. There's nothing tying us together as family, so that worked out pretty cool in that regard too. In the process of trying to, like, from the time of like being under contract to closing, it was just a different hurdle every day, a different circumstance that was like, we thought the loan was going to be off. This house wouldn't appraise. They wouldn't appraise this thing for like what we needed to. So it took multiple appraisals. The first lending company that we were working with was Wells Fargo. They put the kibosh on. They said, we're not getting involved with this property. So we moved on to another place, and it was a place that I actually used to buy my first house with. The guy that I worked with there, very good guy, and he went to bat for us multiple times, because the day before closing, when my loan was in underwriting and the underwriter was looking at it, she looked at the appraisal that was done, which appraised it for just enough. They appraised it for $310. And the reason why they can't appraise a property like this very high is because there's no comparables. They want a 2-mile radius and 6 months back in sales. And they put so much weight in that when determining how much a house is worth in an appraisal. Like, if they can't get that, it hurts you tremendously. So what I knew this, like, from square one looking at this, I was going and looking for properties in the county of the state, which you can go up to the county and up to 2 years back for properties. And I just had a whole bunch of them saved. So luckily I did that, because the day before closing, the underwriter looked at the loan, freaked out, started yelling at my loan agent. She's like, I can't believe you told these people you can give them a loan for this property. And, you know, so it just opened up a whole other can of worms. Again, we're like biting our nails, like trying to get down to the date. We we ended up delaying the closing 30 days to get everything straightened out. It required a second appraisal, a whole bunch of rewriting everything, pleading, begging, the whole deal. Luckily, our loan agent was a real good guy and really went to bat for us. And the bank was billing me. I had to agree. Whenever you're dealing with a bank for a property, my first house was a foreclosure too. Any day you go past closing, it's usually an agreed amount penalty. For this one, it was $200 a day. So I technically owed a few $1,000s at the time of closing. But again, like talking about luck and like just things building up to it, at the time of closing, nobody said anything about the money owed, and like nobody collected anything. So I just kept my mouth shut. So again, like still working your ass off and like doing everything that you got to do, but like it's just amazing how things still kind of fell into place because I just didn't give up. And I will say this, everybody, friends and family, were telling me to stop wasting my time. At the end of it, I was kind of the only one really still fighting tooth and nail for it. And I'm gonna say this, my father-in-law is a very positive guy, very always supportive of everything that I've done. Racing, like any endeavors, he's been there for me. And he said to me, he said, you know what, I think you're getting fucked on this. And he's like, you should just stop wasting your time because this deal doesn't seem like it's gonna happen. And I said to him, and I was like invested like hundreds of hours at this point, maybe even close to thousands of hours. I said to him, until somebody like sends me an arrest warrant or like it says there is no way in hell this deal is gonna happen, I'm not gonna stop fighting for it. Because again, like I had to make that conscious commitment that no matter what, whatever it takes till the end. And in the end, it paid off. And that was the lesson that I learned throughout this whole deal, is that you just have to keep fighting for stuff. And it worked. And it worked out. So once we closed, the first year and a half here was absolutely nuts. You have 6 months to get all the major renovation work done, which we did. So septic work. This house had an in-law apartment in the downstairs that the guy put in that was never permitted. It had a second electrical service. I had to pull it all out. I had to gut the downstairs, the in-law apartment, which I was fine with, like whatever. This had a lot of vandalism in it, so we redid all the electrical, a lot of sheetrock work. All the copper was ripped out because some like crackhead broke in here and like stole it. So that I redid all the plumbing in it. And that I was bringing in people for some of that stuff. I've learned how to do a lot of things. You have to do work yourself. Because of the amount of stuff that we had to get done in such a short period of time, I had to bring other parties in to assist with that. But if it wasn't for being able to do some stuff, like I wouldn't have been able to swing a place like this. You have to become handy. Being very automotive savvy, that plus YouTube and just learning how to do stuff goes tremendous amount of ways and allows you to like get into this stuff. If I was paying contractors to do anything, I would be bankrupt. Wouldn't be able to happen. But we're here. So that's the outside of the property. I say we maybe start going in. I'll show you guys a little bit of the insides. You can see how beautiful and just awesome this stuff is, and know why this was worth every minute fighting for it. Oh, actually one more thing. Before we go inside, let's take a walk back here. I've said this in the past. The barn is heated with radiant heat floors. So the concrete slab has PEX tubing through it, and then the wood floors in the upstairs also has PEX tubing in it. When the guy foreclosed on the property, he ripped out the boiler because they're expensive. They are not cheap. So I had for the first year, we closed in April of 2016. We moved my in-laws in for May 1st because their lease was up on their condo. They had retired about 6 months prior to us finding this. Not really sure what they were gonna do. Again, going to everything working out and just lucky how things fell into place. We found this place, we showed it to them, and they were all for living here with us. So that was like perfect timing. But their lease is up, so we got them in first. My wife and I moved in probably sometime in mid-June. And then I had, 6 months, or we had most of the remediation done, the septics, the well and everything within the first 4 months. And then for winter, I had to figure something out because I had no way of heating this because the boiler was gone. So what you see right here is a central boiler. This was the biggest residential unit you can get. It meets all the EPA Phase 2 requirements for the town. This damn thing cost me $17,000. I had to finance it. I took a shitty loan with a shitty interest rate to pull it off. But I did it because this is the unit that we needed to be able to heat this building and our house. Our house actually has a PEX loop that runs in the ground and it goes into the return section of our ductwork. It is heated with oil primarily, but now that I got everything dialed in with this, I don't burn oil anymore for anything other than hot water, which is like awesome. On the inverse of that is that this thing is my master, my boss throughout the winter time, because you have to load it. I load it twice a day. I can overlay some B-roll footage of it running. We're in the beginning of October here, so this thing hasn't been fired up yet for the beginning of the year. But it was funny because they wanted $3,500 to install this, and I just didn't have it. So I went on YouTube and I figured out how to do plumbing with PEX and how to sweat copper fittings in, and they dropped it here for me, and I installed it myself and hooked everything up. You can see our wood collection here. We stock up on wood wherever we can get it free, which is actually, if you look around, you can find free wood everywhere. This thing, I probably burn about 14 cords of wood a year. I've done two winters with it so far, and most of what you're seeing here will be gone come the spring of this year once we fire it up. It's crazy. It's crazy, but like, if I was to heat this building with fuel, natural gas or oil, it costs me a fortune. So other than just the labor, my loins going into it, it works out really nicely, and it's wonderful. Radiant heat is by far the best heat I've ever had. It is so nice. So one of the things that's really awesome about this property is the amount of stonework that this guy did on it. I think it's absolutely beautiful, but I do not want to know what this costs to produce. I would probably never ever pay for something like this to get put into my own house, but now that I have it, I absolutely adore it and appreciate it. And another thing that's pretty cool that this guy did was that he put koi ponds everywhere. There was 3.5 koi ponds on the property, this being the biggest one. This pit was actually 6.5 feet deep, which we filled it in with dirt because all the pumps and stuff are like broken and gone. And I have enough things on my plate. I don't want to deal with taking care of fish year round, but the idea was that you can let the fish sleep below the frost line during the winter time so they won't freeze. But we filled them all in. They're going to be nice little pretty gardens next year. Yes?
I forgot to pan over there.
That's fine.
Oh, hey there.
So to start the tour off, this is just the mudroom, but this is actually one of my most favorite rooms in the whole house, and here's why. One, the wood planks on the floor are just not like your traditional, the way that they're staggered in size. And then two, if you look up above, you have post and beam as well as tongue and groove, and it's just really pretty. It smells delicious. I love the smell of like fresh wood. Even though it's 20 years old now, it still smells like nice and woodsy. But we never use this room. It's just kind of walk in and pass through. One other thing that's pretty cool, my wife made this, and I'm not into that like Martha Stewart-y shit and stuff, but oh, it says the address. I guess we're not going to use that. We'll just do a cut there.
Yeah, we can cut that.
Oh, all right, let's go inside. So here we are in the kitchen. So we didn't have to actually do too much work with the house. this building and the barn were in pretty good shape. This house, I had a lot of beat up wood on the outside. I was talking about it going untreated. So we've been replacing a lot of window sets. This is my kitty Toon. Hi Toon, or Tuna, I call him Toon, but he's 11 years old. He's a good boy. He's my little buddy. So we've been replacing like windows and balcony doors and stuff, which are like freaking eye-watering expensive if you want like clad exterior and then wood interior stuff. So we've been kind of just pacing ourselves as we can, as money allows, but we've been replacing them. I love all the wooden cabinets. This guy was really big on stained wood stuff and custom wood carvings. So all this like warming tones was really nice. There's a lot of like crack ass like color schemes in here. The kitchen was red and white. The ceiling in the living room was painted with clouds, which I could flash some pictures of that in a second here. We wanted something to bring out the warming tones of the wood. This is really neat, this like hand cut slab breakfast bar here. Again, just always wanted a log cabin. My wife doesn't really love log cabins, but like, so this is the perfect compromise because I have the real wood post and beam. She has the sheetrock so she could do her paint colors and stuff on. Here's the other side of the breakfast bar here. Balcony door set here, which is really nice. Come out here and eat breakfast if I ever have time, which is usually never. But you could sit out here, peep the barn, watch little forest creatures run around the yard. So like I was saying, the living room here, he had clouds painted on the ceiling, which was like kind of neat, but like it just didn't like go with the wood at all. So we did a lot of warming tones. Here's a funny story. That smoke detector up there, I actually changed that on the painter's scaffolding when we had them in here. They just had two ladders leaning up and a piece of scaffolding between them. And it was pretty sketchy. It was all wobbly and stuff. I was like scared shitless changing it. I don't really love heights. But another cool thing that the guy did here, going back to a lot of the custom stuff, so the fireplace is really nice stonework. He's got inlays in the floor, which is freaking amazing. They're throughout the house, which I think is really awesome. And then we have our living room set. It's Bob's, it's a budget set. Coffee table, let's talk about this, because this is one of my favorite pieces of furniture in the whole house. I don't like common crap, I like unique stuff. So this like all carved and nicey nice. This is made by Ethan Allen, which I'm sure this was like eye-watering, stupid expensive when it was new. We found it on Craigslist for 60 bucks. Best fucking $60 ever spent in my opinion. Love the Craigslist finds. Little chess set over there that I never play anymore. I used to play chess a lot when I was younger. It was a Christmas present from the in-laws, but it looks really nice, so we leave it up. Piano. Those of you who go and venture way back into my YouTube days, you'll find some piano stuff. Don't do it. And then this is, what do they say? This is where the magic doesn't happen. This is where I come to bed really late after working all night. My wife's already sleeping, so I find her all laying down already. But this is the master bedroom. There's some really cool stuff here. We have a balcony off of it, which is awesome. These balcony doors are brand new. They cost a stupid amount of money. I stained them myself to match the hand-cut, reclaimed post and beam that was put in through here. This is really awesome stuff. So this is actually vintage like barn wood, and you can see the notch marks because this is all cut by hand with an axe. Balcony side going out. Get nice pretty views. You can see my shitbox Suburbans down there. Take a look at them. But if you look over the tree line, you get a nice view of the mountaintops in the distance. We're about 960 feet above sea level here. So going back to like the hand-cut barn stuff, you can see the notches in here. This is like for like the door, like the barn door openers. For some reason we have the wig that I use in the women's skits up here. I don't know why. Hanging on the shelf. Dude, it looks like a dead animal. More inlays here on the floor. And tunes. Who's a good kitty? But yeah, it's so funny because this bedroom alone is like almost the size of my old house. So it was quite the transition coming from here to there. I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of my shitter just because there's more built-in wood stuff in here, which is pretty awesome. So you don't have to see all the poopiness, but I love stuff like this. My cat unrolled the toilet paper there. That's why it's all jumbled up. Yeah, you did that, huh? So this is my other cat, Abby. Abigail was her full name. She's actually not related to Tuna. They're about a week apart in age. They came from different litters, but we adopted them about the same time. She likes to sleep here and shed her hair everywhere. We don't have kids. Our cats have kind of been like our children. So we'll show you one more room in the house. We'll come down this way. Hopefully Ryan doesn't kill himself walking down the stairs. And one more inlay right down here, which is pretty awesome. This is my favorite one in the whole house. So it's a little bit dark in here. We're gonna hide some of this. So I was talking about how pulling this whole ordeal off really changed everything. After I pulled this all off, I realized that I need to apply that level of effort in the things that are more big picture in my life and stop focusing on short rewards, which was like the car stuff. So in the last 2 years, I started 2 businesses, one dealing with automotive, the YouTube channel falls under that, and then another one is the firearms business. Well, my wife has done the same, and this is her clothing boutique. She sells Piffany clothing, and we have in-house here. She works a full-time job also. We both work very long days. Hers end around probably like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and I work usually till midnight, 1 a.m. every day. But it's just what it takes to do stuff, you know? It's all good. So let's go to the barn. So I don't think I've ever showed these before, but underneath the house I have a few garage bays. Nothing too special in here. We keep our log splitter off to the side right here. I usually park the RX-8 in here at night when I'm dailying it, and then in the wintertime the Lexus will be taking its spot, and my wife parks her CX-5 right here. Not really much too else. I bought a Husqvarna riding mower for this place. And that's about it. We don't have a basement in the house, so this kind of acts like our basement also, so that's why there's kind of shit everywhere. Small trade-offs. Okay, here we go. So moving into the grand garage space. A lot of you guys have seen this already because I've been filming here quite a bit. But this didn't look like this when we closed. The guy was a woodworker, so the floors were unfinished. There was no lighting through here. He just had temporary electrical land. And after closing, I cleaned up all the electrical, put all the junction boxes in, hung all the lightings. These are LED fixtures. Even though they're LEDs, it's kind of funny. I think they're about 50 watt per fixture, which doesn't seem to be that bad, probably because I don't run them like nonstop. But when, you know, this building has its own separate electrical service. It actually has 400 amps coming out here, which is kind of crazy, via 2 panels. I did a lot of like changing things around. He had benches that ran down this whole wall. I decided to make this the parking area so I didn't have to shuffle cars. The idea is just back in, pull off to the side, and keep the middle lane open. So in here is the electrical room. So as I was saying, there's 2 200 amp panels. It has its own service. We picked up the air compressor used. It was already wired, or not wired, but there was air hoses ran everywhere, which was pretty cool. Some of them had leaks, just replaced them, not a big deal. But it's come a long way. I mean, it definitely feels like it's my own now. It didn't feel like that moving in, but like, you saw the potential being in here. It was wild. Like, the beams are ridiculous and oversized. Like, this guy really went to town. You could see the aluminum heat panels there for the radiant heat and the wood floors upstairs. Over here is the heating system. So this is the zoning for the radiant heat. This is where I really learned how to sweat copper fittings in, because I had a lot of busted copper when I started feeding water into the system. There's a video that I posted a while back, and it was, I literally bled this system for like 2 days straight after I got it running. I think it was about a week total to get everything working properly. Thank goodness there was still leftover paperwork, because the way this whole system operates is complicated as hell, but it's this control box that controls it all. And the funny thing is that even though this building is 5,800 square feet, there's 2 things. One, it's insulated with spray and urethane plus traditional fiberglass insulation, which is awesome. This holds its temperature so well. And this is the entire heat exchanger for the whole building. The 2 lines on the back are the loop that run out to the boiler. The heat's exchanged in here, and then it runs to this system, and it's fed through the tubes in the floor and the concrete, and then also in the ceiling. And it does a tremendous job of heating this place. It's really awesome. Coming along to out here, I made this the working bay to keep the dirty work out here and keep this as the parking area. It was the other way around upon moving in. I put the lift in early this year, which is awesome to finally have a lift now. I did a lot of builds on jack stands over the years, and I'm not bitter about it. I think it's cool that I did that, but it's just nice to finally be able to move up into a proper lift and not kill my back. Over here we have all of Drive It Ryan stuff for his Miata build, which we're working on this winter. Oh, hey buddy. And then, of course, the white FD build, which I'll probably start doing more of the chassis prep and stuff this winter. And you could see my rotary build housings for the rotary Miata over there on the table. The peripheral ports are almost done, mostly done. And that build is happening slowly but surely. Ooh, there's one more thing I'll show you guys out here. So this is all the insulated bay. I do have a little bit more. And that's this is like more of a dry storage bay out here. And this is really where I just mostly keep boxes, spare parts, and spare race cars. But it's not mine, it belongs to a friend of mine. And then my transmission farm. Some working, some don't. So we're not going to go too crazy down here. You guys have seen most of this already. But this is the garage, and this is its current shape. As much as I'd like to say that I drive these cars anymore, I really don't. They mostly just sit here and look like this while I work. But I'm okay with it. It's the first year that I haven't, I barely drove anything, and it feels a little bit weird, but at the same time, I just remind myself for why I'm doing it, and it's all good. So why don't we go upstairs and I'll show you guys the most ridiculous upstairs of a garage ever. So this is the balcony of the garage. I don't come out here very often because dirty birdies like to perch up here and poopy all over the place. I bought this exorcist owl here, which he kind of worked for a little bit, but I think they got used to him and they realized he was fake. And I tried this thing too, but it didn't work. So I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do yet to keep them from pooping up here, but it is really awesome to stand out here, and I probably should take the time to stand out here a little bit more often. But I remember the day that I closed on the house, I was standing out here with all of our friends and family came, because this was like a big project in the making. And I'll never forget, like, just looking, we caught the sun setting over the horizon over there, and it was like one of those eye-watering, like, you know, epic achievement moments. It was such a sweet victory. It literally was like going through hell and back trying to pull this deal off, but I tell people I would do it again in a heartbeat, because it was like winning the lottery at the same time, even though I bled for it in the process. So coming along to the upstairs of the barn here. Now let me say something. In my wildest dreams, I did not have a garage that was anywhere near this elaborate. This is all just like tremendous bonus. So take a look around. There's not much up here. I'm taking my time with it. One, like just waiting for finances to allow before I start populating stuff up here. But two, I just don't have time to like dick around with anything. But the post and beam woodwork up here is unbelievable. And it's almost breathtaking to like just sit here and look at it and take it all in. Not to mention, it smells fucking delicious up here. It just smells like fresh wood. But this is the upstairs of the barn. I spend majority of my time out here, not in this big area. I mostly in my office or in the armory. But as time goes on, I have plans to eventually start adding more up here. We work up here quite a bit in the armory when we're editing video. So it probably makes sense to get a bigger table or something out here where we can all kind of collaborate and work together on. Balconies out that way. The first place that I set up was my office. I use this more than anything. So editing video, or taking care of financials for the businesses. This is where I'm at. After we closed, I said, I'm buying a nice office set. I wanted the nicest real wood, no particle board furniture set that I can get without breaking the bank. And this is what I settled on. This is like the nicest, like Chinese made, but real wood desk office set. Everything's matching, and I love it. I sit out here and I just feel like, you know, it's funny, like working really late at night and like you're like, what the fuck are you doing to yourself? And then you just kind of like look over and you're like, yeah, all right. And then you're like back to work, and then you understand like why you're doing it. But a lot of late nights out here, and I often fall asleep in this chair like this when I work too late. Over here in this closet, again, this guy did awesome custom built-ins everywhere. So everything's cedar, smells delightful. He has these giant built-in drawer sets, which you can like fit a person in here to sleep. Up above over here is actually my trophy set from my racing days. You'll notice that these are all broken. When we moved in, I had everything packed up into a box and they were in the house across the way. When I picked the box up and started walking out here, halfway across, the bottom of the box broke open, and like I lost probably 10 trophies in the process, but I kept these ones because they were still salvageable. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna keep these and put these up because I don't want to lose those memories. out of all these trophies, which is not really that much, but like this is the most important one, or the most meaningful one to me. So this was 2012. This is when I won my first Spec Miata race up at New Hampshire Motorsports Park. And I'm glad this mug didn't break. And then here's all my old video game shit that I don't play anymore. After I closed on the house, I haven't plugged in any of the consoles. Everything just sits up there. Shit, I don't even watch TV anymore. So moving along, another point that I want to make is that growing up, I grew up and was taught that you need to go to school, get a degree, go work for a big company so that you have benefits and everything else, and work your way up the chain. And I kind of did exactly that in IT. And at every milestone mark, I would always say to myself, okay, when I get to this next milestone, that's where it's really going to be good. Or and then I would get there, and then I say, okay, now when I get to the next milestone, that's when things are really going to get good. And what I realized in all of that is it doesn't matter what you're doing or how much money you're making. If you're not truly in love with what you're doing, it makes it very difficult to feel fulfilled on a daily basis. And like, if you really think about stuff, like it almost becomes depressing. So for me, after I pulled this deal off, I started focusing on doing my own business stuff with the goal of eventually leaving my day job. I'm not there yet. I'm in the process of hopefully getting to that point. But there's a couple of things I learned, and one is like, when it's something that you're truly passionate about and that you truly love, it makes it so much easier to pour your heart into it. And at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's just about being able to sustain doing something that I love. So the two businesses, like I said before, they started, one is automotive, it's parts development, it's the YouTube channel. We're getting involved with wholesale parts and everything else, and we have a bunch of ways that we're gonna scale it. That's more active this year. And then I also started another thing that I love, which is firearms. I became an FFL dealer. I'm a Type 07, which is a manufacturer's, because I have some product ideas that I actually want to bring to market in the firearms world. And I'm also what's called an SOT, meaning a Class 3 dealer, which means I can deal NFA items like suppressors, short barrel rifles, and things of that nature. So here's my firearms business. It's called GQ Armory. And I launched this in April of 2018. So we're about 6 months in at this point, and what's cool is when I set this business up and I started getting inventory in, I did like an $8,000 opening inventory order, and I had, I think, 12 guns altogether total, and I was like, man, it's gonna take me forever to fill these cases up. But working full time and having my hands in other financial sources everywhere. It's not just those businesses. I have other things that I'm involved in. I still do a lot of side work for IT. I have rental stuff. I rent garage space in the wintertime. Like, I do whatever I can to keep my options open and not put all my eggs in one basket. Not only are these shelves filling up very quickly, because anything that I make that's extra, I just keep reinvesting it. And this is like one of the big mindset shifts that I went through, is that I'm no longer just looking for reward stuff for myself. I'm just looking at doing everything that I can that's big picture, that's long term, and doing things that I love for the long haul. So at the end of the day, it's not really a right or wrong decision. It's what's gonna make you feel happiest in your life. There's people who probably make $40,000 a year, spend time with their family, have families, right? And they're happier than a pig in shit, and there's nothing wrong with that. You have to do what you want to do at the end of the day. And like, unfortunately, it's a blessing and it's a curse. It's just that, one, I'm restless and I'm always looking for the next step. But it's also because I'm restless and I'm always looking towards the next step that I keep pushing and doing this stuff. And it's hard at times. It really is. And I miss out on a lot of stuff, but I'm okay with that because I know what I want in this world. And I know, and I'm learning what it takes to get there, and this is what it takes to get there. But when I'm feeling down, I count my blessings and I just remind myself why I'm doing what I'm doing, because ultimately that's the life that I want to live. That's the life that's going to make me happy. And it's awesome. It's the best thing that I could have done. This house was the best thing that could have happened to me. It taught me so many life lessons about everything. It's just been so worthwhile.
All right, guys, that is it for this one. So again, I didn't want to share this. It's not to like showboat and like show you guys like all my awesome shit. Like that stuff really doesn't matter to me at the end of the day anymore. Like I don't really care about like all the material stuff. It's more like a burden to me. And a lot of these cars and stuff just kind of sit here now. I barely even have time to drive them because I'm just, you know, working my face off trying to like pursue different things in life now. But I wanted to share this with everybody because I've encountered a lot of people in life that like just don't, they're like their own worst enemy in a lot of ways because they just hold themselves back. And they think that either they're not capable or they're not deserving of it, or, you know, they have friends and family that like talk them out of stuff. And it's just like, at the end of the day, like just, you have to like, if it's something that you're passionate about, if it's something that you love, or even if your gut just like says, fuck yes, like do this, like listen to that and don't listen to anybody. If I listen to people about like half the shit that like I've achieved in this life, like I would not be where I am today. Like nowhere's even near it. At the end of the day, like you have to do what's right for you and like look out for yourself, number one. So if you're willing to like put the work in, you know, like you can't just like half-ass something. If you're gonna go after it, you have to go fucking hard, go 150%, because anything less than that will achieve zero results. Zero. You will not get the result. But if you give it that all, make that like commitment, like I'm gonna do this no matter what the fuck it takes, no matter how much I'm gonna suffer, no matter how much I'm gonna bleed for it, and you're not defeated when you run into hurdles and roadblocks and even failure points. Like if you just persist and keep trying, and when you're down, pick yourself up off the ground and like keep going at it hard. And I think that's the message that like I'm really trying to relay with all this, is that I just want to like see other people like break through that barrier, because once you do, like once you push past that point, like your life is going to change. There's so many guys out there like selling like straight up bullshit and like trying to sell the lifestyle and all this other crap. Like you don't need to buy that crap. If you're buying, like if you're not motivated, like, and you have to pay somebody to like be a mentor, and like there's no fucking secret to like any of this stuff at the end of the day. It's just doing the shit work that nobody else wants to do. So me, I'm not a proud person. I never was. I'll do whatever it takes to like get to the point that I need to get to. And like pulling this whole deal off, that's when this like, it really, really made sense, and the big picture like really dawned on me. You know, just go after it. If you don't, you're not gonna get any results. And that's what I learned from all this. So that's it for this one, guys. Thank you all so very much for tuning in, and stay tuned until next time. We'll see you later. Done.